Because I realized his timing is the right timing. It goes full throttle. Everything falls into place. It was planned specifically for you to be here at this particular time, this particular place, right here, right then and now.
12 years. That's how long it took today's guest to pass her licensing exam. She never quit. She kept showing up, kept believing, and eventually opened her own funeral home as one of the youngest first-generation owners in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the Leadership Story, where we talk about real women, real leadership, and real resilience. I'm Lisa Jones. I'm sitting down with Kiersten Talbert, funeral director and owner of Kiersten M. Talbert Funeral Chapel. Her journey is a masterclass in persistence, faith, and all the courage to do things differently, rhinestones and all. Let's dive in. Today I'm here with Kiersten Talbert, funeral director and owner of Kiersten M. Talbert Funeral Chapel Incorporated. Kiersten has a Bachelor's of Applied Science degree in Funeral Home Management and is an autopsy technician in the greater Philadelphia area. She serves as a deaconess at Zion Baptist Church of Ambler and is an active member of the Pennsylvania Baptist State Convention and is a member of Deborah Grand Chapter Order of Eastern Star, EP8 Queen Alpha number 93. She is an avid horseback rider and attends to her 160-pound cane corso, Mr. Gotti Gambino. Kiersten, welcome to the Leadership Story.
Thank you for having me.
On a personal note, Kiersten and I go to church together, and we are truly Eagles fans. Go Birds.
Yes. Yes, we are.
And we tease my husband all the time, but that's a whole nother
All the time.
All the
A
time.
whole nother story for a different day.
Yes. Yes. I want to dive right in because one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Kiersten on the show is because first of all, I'm very fascinated in how you got into this career and also just your passion and how your faith has led you throughout your journeys. I want to start with what started your education in funeral service right after high school? What drew you to taking that avenue?
So actually, it was my mom. Originally, growing up, I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a doctor," and she was like, "Oh, you're going to be a doctor. That's great, but think in terms of you're going to need probably 10 years of schooling, the big sacrifices and things that you might have to make. Why don't you think about maybe being a funeral director?" And I said, "Mom, I'm scared of dead people. I don't think I can do that." So she said, "Okay, well, food for thought. You don't have to go to school for that long. It's still something." I think you would love is still dealing with science, is still dealing with certain things. And I said, I don't know. But it still stuck in my head because actually my mom was starting her process for school to be a funeral director. So I said, well, I don't know, Mom. I'll think about it. And when high school came, I was in the science program. We used to go a couple times a week to MCP Hahnemann. And we would pull actually cadavers out and do case studies on them. So I said, well, you know what? This is something interesting. I think I can do this. And everybody's like, oh, I can't take the smell, or I don't think I can sleep at night. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't really bother me. It might be actually something I think I can do this. So when it came time in my end of junior year going into senior year to make your decisions and apply for your colleges, I applied to Gwyneth Mercy as a backup, and then I applied to mortuary school. And I said, well, let's see what happens. So I got accepted to both. I actually got a full ride to Gwyneth Mercy, and then maybe like 60% mortuary school I got in funding. So I was like, I don't know really what I want to do. Gwyneth Mercy is maybe a half an hour from my house, if that. Mortuary school is probably about 7, 8 hours. I've never been away from my parents before, only child. I don't know. But I said, you want to pray about it, and I'm just going to make a decision. I said, I know if I go the comfortable route, that's comfortable. Maybe I need to do something that's outside of what is comfortable.
Mhm.
You can't grow and you can't learn if you're always comfortable. So I said, we're just going to go for it. 7 hours away from mom and dad, only child, never been away from home. We're just going to go.
Yes, yes.
And my grandmom's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm sure." My grandmom's telling my mom, "I don't know. She's never been away from you guys." But I said, "You know what? We're just going to do it.
Mhm.
That I have nothing to lose, just do it." So by the time my first year was over, I said, "Okay, I think I can do this." I had a rough first semester. They always say your first
Right.
semester is pretty rough, adjusting to a different life, being
Yes.
responsible. I actually got anxiety and some other things that almost had to forfeit my first semester.
Wo
But my mom started realizing some things, got me home, got me situated, and got me right back on the plane in a couple of weeks. So I was able to make up that time so I didn't have to forfeit my first semester. So once that first year went by, things just started flying by. And before I knew it, I was a junior, then I'm a senior. And I'm like, you know what? I think I can actually do this. And then I just graduated school. Next thing I know, I'm done. I'm graduating. I'm walking across the stage. And now it's like, okay, it's time to fill your prerequisites and do your apprenticeship and take
Mhm.
your boards and do all of those things. That's kind of where I landed. I just went straight to school, came right out, no hiccups, and then right into the field.
Wow. It's so interesting. I didn't realize how much we had in common because I also wanted to be a doctor and went to a high school that was geared towards healthcare. I
Hmm.
even at one point had thought about even becoming a coroner. Your mom opened your eyes to something that, if you think about it, it's not, first of all, it's not a traditionally a woman's career
Right.
to go into mortuary. When I saw you as a funeral director, I've seen so little of women in this position, and to see you, it was she actually how did she do that? I don't understand. But I love that story about how, again, how you went, how your mother was able to plant that seed, and you were able to experience that going into the hospitals. That's great. I wish
Yeah.
someone had probably gave that to me.
Yes, yes.
No, so you went straight from high school, you got through the challenges because I know that was probably hard. I also my first semester, if I got a 1.5, I don't even know.
Hmm.
It was bad.
Right.
It was awful. Got through that and you were able to graduate, and then you got into your apprenticeship. How was that working in that apprenticeship in that first year, and then also getting your licenses?
So for when I came home, I actually worked at the funeral home that my mom worked at some years ago. And what I will say was it was a blessing because she was a woman as well, and she was all for girl power,
Mhm.
meaning that just because you're a woman, you're going to learn all aspects. You're going to be present. And this is how we're going to do it. Driving the hearse,
Oh,
doing removals, and she would take her pocketbook and have her heels on, so I had my pocketbook and my heels on too, so I ended up adapting to that. But
and
she
if
was
you
all for
just
women.
and just real quick, if you ever see Kiersten, she got her heels and she got the bag, okay? Don't mess around, but go ahead.
Yes, so she was all there's no area that a woman can't be in. You bring a special touch as a woman to the field. So she showed me, she planted the seed or the foundation for me. And it was up to me to take those things and make it my own. It wasn't necessarily easy because with my apprenticeship, as soon as I got in there, she put me to work immediately, meaning immediately. This is your apprenticeship. You're here to learn, and carry your book around, take your notes, and then after a while, you're responsible for this office. Within a few months, I was responsible for the office, 9 to 5. I was responsible for answering the phones. I was responsible for getting paperwork, taking death calls, ordering caskets, doing insurance paperwork. So I very quickly I
Mhm.
had to learn, but I also had to think ahead of things. Sometimes everything is not cut and dry, and you have to learn some things. And she's going to teach you some things, but you also have to think outside the box as well. So that was a good thing with doing that. But again, another female who was willing to say, "I'm going to pour into you because somebody poured into me." It was great. Like I said, she laid the foundation for what basically like what a woman funeral director is. The attention to detail, how we do things a little bit differently. And it just opened my eyes. Not saying that I couldn't learn anything from a man, but just a woman just has a different touch about things, about how
Yeah.
she does things, her attention to detail, how she speaks to people when people are upset or how they're
Mhm.
irate or whatever the case may be. Woman just sometimes is able just to adjust to anything. So
Agree.
it was definitely a blessing having my start definitely with a woman because again she gave the touch, she showed how a woman was supposed to be, and she was older and came from older parents, so she had a lot of old school mentality. Your
Mhm.
shoes being shined, and you make sure you have on a black long wool coat in the winter, and you have black
Mhm.
gloves. She was very old school, like my parents were, and our grandparents were.
Yes.
So you just dressed a certain way when you went on funerals. You just presented yourself a certain way when you went on services and working in the industry. Period. It was just a big difference with a woman. A big
Yes.
difference.
And you have, I'm sure, all that stuff that you learned, I see it now. I see it when you present yourself. I've seen how you carried on at different events. So I know she planted a great seed in you. Plus, let's not say that your mom is not sharp either. So I
Oh
just want to
yeah,
say
so
that. Now
that
listen.
is I she tells everybody, "Oh, I dress her. I'm her stylist." Because people ask me all the time, "Who's your stylist?" My mom does everything. She's the one that puts everything together. She does it together.
Yes, she does, and she does it well. So
Yeah.
you took this 12-year journey to get your national exam. And during those 12 years, what made you not give up or just took you a while to get your take that national board exam?
So I took the exam multiple times, but one thing that I realized when I finally passed was you have to mentally be in the right headspace for that test.
Mm.
The test, yes, it is multiple choice and do you know this answer? Do you not know this answer? But it's actually critical thinking. And you really have to put yourself in those situations and answer correctly. What we learn in school is a lot different than what you learn outside. And different faiths, different religions, different people, everybody does things differently. You basically have to deprogram yourself what you would do versus what the textbook says you should do.
Right. Right.
So it was, things that I would do, well, I would do it this way, but the textbook says, no, this is not the way to do it. But I also experienced a lot of loss. I lost my father. I lost all of my uncles at one point. I think I was losing somebody every year, grandparents, everybody. And it was just a lot. And when I would pick up the test or pick up my study guide to study, I would not be motivated to do it. I mean, it was like every time I went to take a test, I was going to a funeral. I had to move my test back because I was going to a funeral. And matter of fact, my uncle had died right before I took the test the last time, and I pushed my test back to go to his funeral. And I
Wow.
think I pushed the test back a week after the funeral, and I finally did pass. But
Mhm.
so many people had died that were close to me. Every time I turned around, it was a funeral. It was something, else
Yeah.
going on. And then life happens. You get settled, you
Yeah.
get comfortable, you start doing other things. Oh, well, I'll do this and complete this, knowing that you need to complete one thing first before you open up something else.
Right.
So I was looking at other things. Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And you really need to finish what you started. You really need to buckle down. I was in a different associations, but I could no longer be listed as a student or no longer listed as an apprentice or no
Right.
longer listed. And they were trying to find titles to give me so that I could still be a part of things. They were running out of titles and things to give me because it was like, what else can we call you? There's nothing else that we can give you because
Right.
you need to have your license.
Yes.
And I said, it's really time to buckle down. And I really think the Lord places certain people in your life for certain times when they're needed for you and vice versa. A friend of mine had mentioned to me a while, he said, you're gonna let your mom close her eyes and not see you, complete your journey. And that resonated with me. And it didn't happen right away, but my mom's dreams were my dreams. A parent, a lot of times I realize their children's dreams become their dreams.
Yeah.
And my mom sacrificed, for me to go to school and, do things. And how can I not at least finish it and say that I did it? I said, my dad is going there, my grandmother is gone. So my mom is the only person left. And I just had to really mentally get myself together. I had to fast, I had to pray, I had to study to really get myself together, to buckle down, to get into the habit of studying. a certain amount of hours a day and
Mhm.
study guides and all kinds of things. And I just eventually just mentally got in that headspace, and it was just like full throttle. I was
Right.
studying around the clock, like crazy, like
Yeah.
studying. I would come home, sit at the table, take the dog out, sit back at the table, go to bed. And it was like I would go to work and I would take half of my break and study with my flashcards. I would take half of my lunch and study with the flashcards. Then I would come right home and do it all again. And I started getting into a rhythm of
Yeah.
just studying. And if I knew I was going on a trip or something, I was taking my stuff with me. I was studying on the trip. So I was like, all right, Lord, this has to be it. Like this has
Yes.
to be it. And the last time when I went to take my test, I was so nervous. I left work a half a day early. And I said, Mom, I'm just so nervous. I'm shaking. I can't. And she said, well, you know what? I'm going to take you to your test tomorrow so you don't have to worry about parking.
Yeah.
I'll get you some breakfast. I'll take you downtown. And I was just a nervous wreck. I didn't sleep that night. She was like fussing at me, like, girl, if you don't stop walking them hallways, if you just calm yourself down. I
Yes.
just could not. I just couldn't. We got down there. I was in and out, and then you hit this button, and it's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Oh boy, am I sure?" And then you hit the button again, and it's like, "Should I go back?" And it's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I thought if you hit the button one time, it's supposed to
Yes.
tell you yes,
Yes.
but you're
Yes.
giving me these two and three times. I'm not going back anymore. I'm gonna say my prayers. I'm gonna hit the button, and
Yes.
it's just gonna have to be what it's gonna be." And when I hit the button and it said pass, I couldn't believe it.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't believe it, and even my colleagues here had threw me a like a soft party because it was just the beginning of COVID when I got my license. So
Okay.
they had threw a party for me because they were so excited. They're like, "We've been on this journey with you as well." And one of my colleagues, she got a Shiro Award for being a funeral director in her community. And she invited me to that award ceremony and gave me her award because she felt I was her Shiro
Oh,
for
wow.
finally getting to this point. And finally, I mean, she followed me from coming out of mortuary school to anything. She was like a second mother, but she turned around and gave me her award and flowers and things because she felt I was her Shiro.
That is so beautiful. I love that. You passed it, 12 years in the making. That was the time for you to do it. Sometimes
Yeah.
you can't rush those things, and God knows when it's time for you, and I guess he was like, "All right, this is time. Let's do this."
Yes, yes. Because I realize his timing is the right timing, and when it's the timing goes full throttle, it's like everything falls into place. It was planned specifically for you to be here at this particular time, this particular place, right here, right then and now. And I always say I would never trade that journey ever, because that's my story.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You worked in funeral services for a few years before you decided to open up your own chapel. What made you decide to do that? What was the influence to do that?
So I've always said I wanted to have my own funeral home and be a woman funeral director and things like that. But I got comfortable. So once I got my license and I was working at another funeral home, I could make decisions, I could do things. So I was just comfortable. I loved where I was at. They treated me well. We were like a family. And a friend of mine said to me, they said, "You're building someone else's brand. Why aren't you building your own brand?"
Wow.
And I was taken back because sometimes you don't realize things from the inside out, but somebody from the outside in saw something different. And they
Mhm.
said, you have the qualifications, not just that, but you're a great funeral director. So why wouldn't you want to invest in yourself? You've already invested in yourself because you have loans, but why wouldn't you want to take that investment and create your own? And I said, I never kind of thought about it like that. I figured I'd be where I'm at. I'm comfortable. They love me. I love them. We're family. They
Right.
look out for me. I look out for them. I'll just be with them until the Lord calls me home. And he said, well, that doesn't make sense. You have a gift and you have a talent.
Yeah.
So your vision is not always somebody else's vision. And I
Yes.
started realizing that. I started realizing that there were things I wanted to do that they might necessarily didn't care for or didn't like, and I would start getting frustrated. And I said, Lord, maybe this is a sign. And it came to me. It says, everybody's vision is not your vision, and your vision is not everybody else's vision.
Yeah.
So if you have a vision and I'm giving you a vision, then you have to be on your own with this vision and create this vision. So I said, I gotta make a decision. What am I going to do? Am I actually going to start this, or what am I going to do? And I prayed about it all weekend. I went to the cemetery and sat at my father's grave, and I just talked to him and I prayed and I said, Lord, I don't this is scary in a
Yes.
way,
Yes.
because it's a big responsibility for
Yes.
everything to be on you 100%, nobody else.
Right.
And I said, you know what, we're just going to do it. We're just going to do it. And the minute I said I'm going to do it, I felt so much relief. I felt so much um like, okay, we can do this. And then the next thing was, okay, where are you going to get started? What's the name going to be? How's all these things going to work? But the Lord really put certain people in my path in place who wanted to see me win and wanted to see me be successful, and things just started working out left and right. Now
Yes.
I've had some bumps in the road, not saying everything was perfect and
Right.
the grass was so green and so tall, but things just started working out. And I said, you know what, Lord, maybe it's destined for me. This is what you have for me. This
Yeah.
is the vision. I have my own style. I have my own way of doing things, and I'm just going to just be me. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to follow what everybody else does or what's the normal in funeral service. I'm going to put my rhinestones on. I'm put my rhinestones on.
I love it. And
Yeah.
so a couple things. One is, what were some of those obstacles that you had to face launching your own business, and being you're in Montgomery County, you're considered one of the few first generations that owns a chapel in the area. How does that feel? But what are some of the like the obstacles that you had to face, and how did you overcome those?
So some of the things I faced was starting out financially. I started from scratch. I didn't do any loans. I just what I had was what I had. And things cost. So just getting started, getting a lawyer to get your business registered. You have to take care of the business stuff first before you can take care of the funeral business stuff.
Right.
Getting all those documentations together and register with the state as a business, getting bank accounts, everything cost. So it was a lot getting started cost wise, but there were certain things that I had to have, of course, to get started with, fulfill the obligations for the state to give me, the approval. So I originally started in a share facility. And of course, even though I was not bringing in financials, I still had to pay rent there. Whether I had a funeral that month or I didn't have a funeral for a few months, there was still a contractual obligation that those things had to be fulfilled. The Lord worked it out, everything worked out, but there was just a better opportunity for me in Glenside. Still like a shared facility, things of that nature, but it's a lot different. Again, somebody that was a past colleague of mine, it just worked out for me better where I'm at now. But of course, starting from the beginning, financially being responsible for everything. Sometimes when you have a vision, somebody else might not necessarily see that vision, and you have to articulate what you see to get them to see it, to produce what you want them to see.
Yes.
So it was a lot getting started because I am a listed supervisor. Technically in Pennsylvania, you're not supposed to have a job, but if you do, then the state needs to, what's your hours at your job? Should something happen at the funeral home, will your job be able to release you of your duties for that
Right.
day? Which my job never had a problem with. They're like, no problem. We'll type it up, have it for you. That's no problem. But
Okay.
just, little
Yeah.
things that had to be done just to get to a certain point.
Yeah. So as a funeral director, what do you want families to experience when they come to you during their time of grief?
I can be very formal, but I'm very laid back. I really like to make my arrangements at people's homes where they're comfortable. Not everybody wants to come to the funeral home, so I
Right.
try to keep people from only coming to the funeral home unless they're coming to view their loved one. I pick the clothes up. I'll come to the house if you need help with putting the program together, or we'll do
Mhm.
everything through email. But I want people to feel comfortable. Try to be very honest with people about certain things. If this is going to work, if this is not going to work, or we need to do a plan A or plan B, plan C, different things. So when people sit in front of me, I try to be just Kiersten. I'm not necessarily Kiersten, the funeral director. I am because I'm there to service you, but I'm just Kiersten. I'm just a regular person, and I'm just I'm here to help you get from point A to point B.
Yeah. And how do you incorporate, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but you have a style that is different from many others. How do you incorporate your signature style with, with the services that you provide?
So sometimes it depends. If the decedent is wearing a certain color, we're going to wear their color tomorrow too, so we can match with the family too. So that means, okay, I guess I got to go find me a dress this color or
I
something
love
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
So, I try to incorporate different things. And then with the seasons changing, in the summer, springtime, I like to wear light colors. I'm not really a black person. I have some things black from here or there from time to time, but when the seasons change in the summertime, I like to go with light colors. I like to do something different. I don't want people to always say, "Oh, black, black, black." However, I'm feeling, whatever the decedent might be wearing, we're a lot of times we're going off of that.
Nice. And we talked about this, and throughout your story, you have leaned on your faith. You hear God's call. How do you connect that in your business? I understand that funerals are for the dying, but not everyone is a Christian or whatever their religion is. How do you balance your faith or lean on your faith to run your business and be and care for people at the same time?
So one of the things that I do is I do fast. Sometimes when I need an answer or if things are getting slow or things, I just fast. I'll give up something that might be near and dear to me for a week or a couple of weeks and I just fast. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've gotten into the habit of is praying for my business separately daily. Just praying over it, praying, asking God, what's the next steps? Where do I go from here? Put me in the right place in front of the right people, what's next?
Yeah.
So I've gotten in the habit of just strictly praying, not just for myself, but for my business and for those who work with me in my business as well. So I just pray, I fast. But a lot of people ask me a lot of times, how do I sleep at night dealing with death so much? And how do I have a calm spirit? And I always tell people when you're called, you're covered.
Yeah, definitely. Or what do you hope your legacy will be in this industry?
That I provided good service for over 25, 30 years. That would be what my legacy would be. I would love to maybe one day be in a newspaper and 30, 40 years from now, somebody says, "Oh, I want to be like her when I grow up."
Mhm.
So that's what I'm hoping that my legacy will be that, I did something different. I just followed the vision.
Nice. I love that. All right, Miss Kirsten, I'm going to end on my signature question. And what is that one word that describes your leadership story and why?
So the one word that describes my leadership story would be consistent.
Hmm. And why do you use that word?
I'll say consistent because even though it took me that long to get my license, I still plugged away at it. I still never gave it up.
Kirsten, first of all, I just want to personally thank you, not only for being on the show, but also you were a pivotal part of when my mom passed back in 2020. I can't thank you enough of how you handled my family and you kept me sane through the whole thing and
Yeah,
and and plus through COVID. It was a lot,
it
but
was.
I appreciate how you showed up, how you treated my family, and I just love you.
I love you too. And I thank you for thinking of me and thank you for entrusting your mom to me at that time.
Yes, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so, anyone who wants to connect with Kirsten, I'm going to put her link to her website so you can get any more information. Again, Kirsten, thank you so much. Kirsten's word was consistent. After hearing her story, that word takes on so much meaning. 12 years to pass the boards, years of working for others before stepping out on her own. Every obstacle met with prayer, fasting, and showing up again. That's not just consistency, that's faith in action. If you're in the Philadelphia area and you want a funeral director who brings authenticity, compassion, and yes, rhinestones to the most difficult moments, Kiersten is your person. Visit www.kmtalbertfc.com to learn more about funeral service planning or connect with Kiersten on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. All the information is in the show notes. If Kiersten's story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Email me at leadershipstory@substack.com. Subscribe to the Leadership Story on Substack or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't already, leave us a review. It helps other women find these conversations. I'm Lisa Jones, helping you discover the leadership story you were meant to tell.